Hello, my name is Sandra Dumont. I am the head teacher at the BOUTWELL Early Childhood Center, and I'd like to welcome all of you to this edition of In the Loop. The focus of today's program will be kindergarten. We will take you from registration to the first day of school. Some of the topics that we'll be discussing today will be screening, which is taking place next week. We'll talk to you a little bit about our kindergarten packets that go home in early July. We'll also talk about what you can expect on the first day of school. Those are some of the things that we'll be talking about today. With me are my guests, my co-host, Erin Healey. She is the head teacher at the WILDWOOD Early Childhood Center. Mrs. Alisha Doyle. She is the kindergarten screening coordinator and also the special education teacher at the Shawshene School. Mrs. Emily Vieira, a kindergarten teacher at the WILDWOOD Early Childhood Center. And last but not least, Mrs. Lisa Murphy, the kindergarten teacher at the BOUTWELL Early Childhood Center. Before we begin, I'd like to give you a little bit of background on our program. Our kindergarten program is a full-day program. We are 5 hours and 15 minutes. Each of the sites is fully staffed. Our WILDWOOD kindergartens house 7 kindergartens, and our BOUTWELL Early Childhood Center houses 5 kindergarten programs. Each of the classrooms is staffed by a teacher and an educational assistant. We have a full-time nurse and a full-time secretary. In addition, we also house 1 preschool classroom at each site. That gives you a little idea. We're really geared toward very young children, ages 3 to 6, and all of what we do is around early childhood. Next, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about registration. For most of our viewing audience with kindergarten-age children, you have registered during our March orientation and registration time. However, if you have not registered your child for kindergarten, and they will be 5 by August 31st, 2011, we encourage you to do this as soon as possible. You can register Monday through Friday at either site, depending on what side of town you live in, during our regular school hours. We encourage you to go to the Wilmington website or our individual school websites, where you can find more information on screening and also registration. There are 2 forms that you must fill out. They are mandatory. It is an occupancy form and a residency form. We know that a lot of this information is very daunting, and we encourage you to call the school at any time. We're hoping that we can answer any of your questions and get you ready for registration. We want to make sure that the process is as easy and as quick as possible. So we hope to set you up with that. So if you've registered, what happens next? At this point in time, I'd like to turn the conversation over to Ms. Healey, and she will be interviewing our guest on some of the topics that we've discussed.
Thank you, Mrs. Dumont. As you may or may not be aware, last evening at the BOUTWELL School, we held a screening orientation for incoming kindergarten parents. The screening meeting was designed to share general information about our screening process and what your child and you may expect when you arrive for your screening appointment. Screening appointments were made upon registration at either site and will take place at the WILDWOOD Early Childhood Center on May 3rd, 4th, or 5th. As Mrs. Dumont mentioned, with us today is Mrs. Alisha Doyle, who is a special education teacher at the Shawshene School and also the coordinator of our kindergarten screening program. So at this time, I'd like to ask Alisha a few questions about the screening process. Welcome, Alisha.
Thank you.
Could you tell our families at home a little bit about what the purpose of the screening process is?
The purpose of the screening is to determine students who may need special education services. The screening is designed to identify those students at an early age. So, for example, if a child is having some difficulty saying different sounds, that could impact their ability to decode words, to read words. So what we'd like to do is identify that need and remediate it, address it as soon as possible.
Excellent. And could you tell us who conducts the screenings?
The screening is conducted mostly by staff from the Wilmington School District. The kindergarten nurses conduct the hearing portion of the screening. We have parent volunteers who help Dr. Fody, a local optometrist, run the vision portion of the screening. And the developmental portion is handled by special education staff, speech and language pathologists, and school psychologists.
Excellent. On the day of their scheduled appointments, what should parents and students expect when they arrive at the Wildwood School?
When you arrive at the Wildwood School, you'll walk in through the front doors. There'll be a registration table. You'll sign in with your child's name and wait to speak with a guidance counselor. That guidance counselor will meet one-on-one with you and your child. They'll go over the screening process and answer any specific questions that you may have. After that, your child will participate in a vision screening, a hearing screening, and lastly, a developmental screening. And it's important for parents to know that they remain with their child at all times.
It sounds like there's a lot of information that's gathered on that day. Could you talk a little bit about how the parents will receive the results of the screening?
The parents will receive the results in the mail. It takes about 2 weeks for us to process all the information and send it out to the parents at home. There'll be a letter that indicates that either no problems are anticipated with your child starting kindergarten, or there might be a couple of areas that would like to monitor and possibly rescreen in the fall. If your child is going to be referred for a special education full evaluation, I will have spoken with the parent prior to receiving that letter in the mail.
And how is the information in general used after it's received at the screening?
This information is used to just determine if there is a need to do a full, in-depth special education evaluation. It is not used for classroom performance ranking or classroom assignments. This is completely independent of that.
And I know many parents may be worried, what happens if their child becomes anxious on the day of the screening and is crying and just doesn't want to participate? What happens then?
We see that every single year. There's at least one child who does not want to participate on that given day. And all that happens is we just set aside the file, we say that we were unable to complete the screening, and then we try it again in the fall with staff once the child is comfortable at either the Boutwell or the Wildwood School.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us, Alisha, and sharing that information with our families at home. I'm sure it will be extremely helpful for everybody watching. After the screening is completed on either May 3rd, 4th, or 5th, the next item that you should expect will come home in the mail in the first week of July, and that will be a packet of information which will include many useful items to prepare both parents and students for their upcoming arrival to kindergarten. The packet will contain a variety of information to include your child's classroom assignment, their classroom teacher, a school calendar reflecting all the half days and conference days scheduled throughout the school year, information about the 2 orientations that will happen to prepare your child to enter kindergarten. One will be just for parents, one will be for parents and students, and some tips and activities that you can do with your child at home to prepare them for the first day of school. Following the receipt of the summer packet, as I mentioned just a moment ago, parents will attend an evening orientation at the end of August to discuss policies and procedures and general information about your child's school. At this evening orientation, you will also receive your child's bus stop. So you should not expect that to come home in the packet in July. You'll get that in August. Shortly after the parent orientation, you'll visit your son or daughter's school during the day for a second orientation at which you will bring your child with you. And during this second orientation, students will have the opportunity to meet their classroom teacher, their educational assistant, view their classroom, and also take a short ride on the school bus. Parents will also have the opportunity at that time to get some more information from the staff at each individual school that their child will be attending. So after the first 2 orientations happen, it will be time to prepare your child for the first day of kindergarten, which will start on September 6th. And joining us now to talk a little bit about the first day of school is a classroom teacher, kindergarten classroom teacher from the Wildwood School, Mrs. Emily Vieira. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you.
We all know that the first day of school can be quite a nerve-wracking experience for both parents and children, especially when entering kindergarten for the first time. Would you mind talking a bit about what parents and children could expect when they arrive either at the Wildwood School or the Boutwell School on their first day?
Sure. Well, when they arrive, all staff is on duty to greet the car riders and the bus riders. students will gather into the cafeteria underneath their classroom sign. All students will be wearing a tag that represents their classroom. For instance, if my class had bears, all the children in my classroom would be wearing bears. And they would receive this on the day of orientation. So my sign would go along with the symbol of what the children will be wearing, so that we can easily bring them to their proper spot. Once they are all gathered into the cafeteria, both the bus riders and car riders, both a teacher and an ed assistant will bring them down to their classroom to enjoy their day.
Excellent. And are parents allowed to be at school on that first day of school in the morning, taking pictures?
Yes, of course.
It's always an exciting day.
Yes.
It's certainly not uncommon for parents to worry about the type of reaction their child might have on the first day of school. And we can assure you that we've seen all sorts of reactions, very happy children, very nervous children, some tears. But Mrs. Vieira, could you talk a little bit about what parents could do at home to prepare their son or daughter for the first day of school, to maybe ease some of the anxiety that they might feel?
Sure. Something that might be easy to do is just to make a mark on the calendar, so that circle the date that they start school. You could create a countdown just to know how many days left until that big important day. They might want to discuss what their day may look like. Take a drive by the school, go take a look at the playground, let the child play out the playground for a little bit. I think it's really important for them to attend the orientation, where the child gets to meet their teacher, meet their other classmates, and just see the school inside of where they're going to be attending.
Absolutely, those are some great suggestions. And of course, every once in a while we do have a child who comes on the first day of school and is crying because they're afraid to leave their mom or dad. Do you have any suggestions as a staff member of what you might do with the child who is crying on that first day of school, how to ease their pain or get them down to the classroom?
You know, we've all seen that, at least every year. So just kind of trying to guide that child into the line, assuring the parent that the day will go smoothly. I think once they see their friends and are in that classroom, 9 times out of 10 they calm right down and they're ready to go and having lots of fun. I think it's really important, as hard as it is at that time when the teacher guides that child along, the parent to try to, it's hard, but to try to stay clear from their vision, because once they see that parent, still it continues to be hard for the child, and I guess it's hard for all of us, for teacher and parent as well.
Absolutely, that is a difficult situation, but like I said, it's not the first time we've seen it, so we have well-trained staff who will be happy to take care of your child if it were to arise. Thank you, Mrs. Vieira, for sharing some of that information. I think that will also be helpful as parents prepare for the first day of school. I'd now like to take a moment to speak with Mrs. Lisa Murphy, who is a kindergarten teacher at the BOUTWELL School, to talk a little bit about what a typical day in kindergarten might look like. Now, we understand that depending on the classroom, it may look a little bit different, but in general, could you tell us a little bit about what a kindergarten day might look like?
Absolutely. All of the children will, as Ms. Vieira said, arrive on the school bus or a car rider. They will be walked down as a classroom and arrive in the classroom. And again, every classroom's routine is different, but everyone will bring into their jackets, they'll have a hook or a locker if you're at the WILDWOOD. You'll hang their coat on the hook and they will come into the classroom. And the first day of school, the teachers are assisting them, emptying their backpack. Most of the classrooms have their own folder that they'll have them take out. They'll take out their snack. The first few days takes a while to get the children used to the routine of the room, but all of the classrooms have a normal routine, a daily routine that they would do. One of the important things for the first day is checking out how the child is going home. Then we're also checking snack. Both of the buildings are a peanut-free building, so we need to make sure snacks are labeled and what kind of food they are and what their contents are, and that's kind of the most important thing because that's the first thing the children ask, when are we having snack? So we will check the snacks and check their folders for notes and make sure everyone is okay and has everything. Once they do that, and then they will give their lunch for the day. Another part of kindergarten is they get to have lunch in school. So depending on how the classroom works, they will either go up to see the ed assistant, they may use a sticker or a popsicle stick, but they'll learn the routine for their own room and give them their lunch order. Maybe they're going to order pizza, or they're going to have a pretzel that day, or they're going to order the main lunch, or just buy a milk or a lunch. And that will all be discussed in information during orientation, the pricing. But the children will do their lunch order, and then they'll have a system of where they check in. In my classroom, they have a card that they would take from home and put into school. After that, the children will sit for what we call morning meeting. During this morning meeting, the children are exposed to really mainly the basis of our Trailblazer math program. Every classroom again runs their meeting differently, but we all cover the days of the week, the months, the weather, how many days we've been in school, has anyone lost a tooth, which is always exciting in kindergarten. We've talked about the schedule for the day once we're done with calendar, even during calendar. What does a day look like? Well, we did calendar, then what will happen during there? The schedule of the day will give the children who have anxiety about what's coming next, it will give them that point of view. After we finish morning meeting, usually then the children will have a snack break and then get to have their snack in the classroom, which is always exciting. And then they'll go into centers, and again, the room of each room is different. Centers could be from a game being played, centers could be an arts and craft, centers could be focusing on our Houghton Mifflin, which is our reading program series. It could be a science topic, it could be writing. They would vary each day, and every child would get to do a center depending on the routine of that classroom. After that, then again, we have lunch, which is always the most important. And the first day of school, we walk through them. How to buy their lunch, what to do with their little cards. We walk them through every single thing. So the first day, we don't get much done because a lot of the first week of school is getting the routine of the day. This is how you buy lunch, this is where you put your coat, doing calendar and all of those things. We help the children understand those routines. After lunch, we then go to recess. And recess is at the BOUTWELL school, is on our back field when there's not snow there. And we also have a playground that the children are allowed to use, and Wildwood has the same. They also have a parking lot and also a playground and a field that the children get to go out and enjoy. And there is staffing, as always, teachers are out there with their classrooms. So they get to enjoy all of the other rooms and meet up with their friends and have some downtime. Usually when they come in from lunch and recess, the teachers will then have some quiet time, whether that's reading a book to them, letting them get some water, and then they also will have some choice time. They always want to know, when are we going to play? So there is some time during the day for them to play. Again, the day comes by fast. It's time for dismissal. We then would pack up the children, make sure they have their folder, their lunchbox, their backpack. One of the things important to remember is to have everything labeled with your child's name, because we might get 5 Pokemon backpacks and they all will think they have theirs. So that's always a great assistance to ease anxiety for your son or daughter, and also to help the teacher and the teacher assistant, because the first day of school, we're learning who they are and what belongings they have. After that, we also have, and that would be the end. We would bring them to, in the BOUTWELL, we go right into a bus line and we would walk the children. The children will be wearing a bus tag with their name and address on it and bus number. So the bus driver will know what their street address and where they're getting off. And we would also escort the children to the car rider line. Or maybe they're going to our CARES, which is our after school program. And they would all have tags and labels so they know. And during dismissal, we do identify all of the car riders so we know that that child is getting home with the person who is their designated person to pick up. And Wildwood does run the same at that. Their bus dismissal may just be a little bit different depending on how they run buses there. But that usually will be a typical day at each center.
I think we would all agree that it's pretty busy in kindergarten.
Yes.
Now, there are specialists during
Yes.
kindergarten. Could you talk a little bit about the specialists that are offered for kindergarten students?
Absolutely. Our specialists are very fortunate. They have gym class, which is our physical education program, twice a week for 30 minutes. And then they also have art for 30 minutes and music for 30 minutes, computers and library, and those are all once a week. Our computer class, we have divided the class in half. so that the children don't need to share a computer, that they're able to go to the computers and have their own computer. For the most part, they may have 1 or 2 children that do have to share, but they will get 30 minutes for that time once a week. So the class will be broken into 2 groups.
Excellent. And that certainly adds to the busy day.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, we know these students are young, but is it safe to say that kindergarten students get homework during the school day? And if so, what might that look like in a classroom?
They absolutely do. Children, parents, I think, are always shocked when we start with the homework, but they do get homework. And kindergarten is very different. You know, it is play and they have fun, but we also do a lot of academic basis programs and things in it. Homework could be something where sorting a collection of stickers or finding a collection of circles at their house, or it may be a simple review worksheet of a sound, maybe finding things at their house that may begin with, if we're doing the letter B or the sound of B, they may need to find things at their home that start with that letter. It may be, as the year becomes later, reading a short book that our Houghton Mifflin program provides with us to reinforce some phonics and some language arts. But it's usually something that's very short, very simple, reviewing what we've already covered in the classroom, and maybe only once or twice a week, and it will vary depending on the very early of the year to currently where we're at the end of kindergarten this year. It would definitely look different.
Excellent. And when can families expect to receive more specific information about actual classroom-specific activities and the curriculum that their children will be exposed to?
Normally, most of the teachers will, once they find out their class list, will send something just to welcome the child to their classroom, usually before school starts. At the orientation, which is the second one that they have in the summer, that's really just the daily routine of the room, what they need for the first day of school, and really if they have a snack and how they're getting home, that's the most important part. Then in the end of September, we do have what's called an open house in both sites. So please watch and listen for the Connect Ed or listen for on the website of the BOUTWELL in at the WILDWOOD. And this is an in-depth evening where the teachers will go over the full routine of the classroom, the full curriculum that will be covered. And it's a great time for parents to have questions at that point if they have seen anything or if their child's having problems. And it will really address the full curriculum of what kindergarten has to offer. And that's at the end of September.
Thank you, Mrs. Murphy. That was very helpful. And I hope that you found all of this information that our guest presented helpful. At this time, I'd like to turn the program back over to Mrs. Dumont to review what we've discussed and to close out our show.
Well, thank you, Ms. Healey. We have given you a great deal of information, and I'd just like to take a minute to review some of it. Registration, very important. If you haven't registered your child, please do so as soon as possible. We are available during the summer months, but it is sporadic, so we do encourage you to call us if it's going to be later in the summer. We realize that some people do move into Wilmington later in July or August. Also remember, your child has to be 5 by August 31st, 2011. The screening process, again, we've discussed that pretty much in length. If you need any questions or you have any concerns about it, you can contact Mrs. Doyle at the Shawshene Elementary School, and that is 978-694-6030. We've talked about the summer packets. Probably the most important thing that you're going to get, one of the things in there that will be your Bible, will be the kindergarten handbook. It will give you all of the procedures and protocols at our sites, staffing, times, anything you need to know. You'll also get your teacher assignment and the room assignment. So it is an important piece of information. Orientation. The parents will come in August. We're going to give them nuts and bolts of our program, again, procedures, protocols, and the all-important bus information, which I think, because it is your first time with us, that is very important, and we do understand that. The children's orientation, if we do nothing else on that day, we give them a ride on the big yellow bus. And we could do anything else and it wouldn't matter, but they get that ride on the big yellow bus. And they get to see the school and meet their teacher. And we've talked a lot about the first day of school. So hopefully there aren't a lot of questions or concerns. We really do understand that for most of the kindergarten students, this will be their first experience with public school. We want to make sure it's a happy one and a successful one, not only for the children, but for their parents. So again, please do not hesitate to call us with any questions that you have or any concerns. In closing, I'd like to thank my co-host, Ms. Healey, and our guests for joining us, and you, the viewers, for joining us as well. We look forward to meeting all of our new kindergarten families in the fall, and we hope you have a great summer. Thank you.